on cybersecurity in the digital era. I'm Rahima, Wasti, Marketing Executive at DataProtection, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. Joining me is our esteemed founder, Mr. Philip Cutting, who will share his invaluable insights on this critical topic. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you, Rahima. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope they're invaluable. So, cybersecurity is such an important issue today in today's digital landscape that we have to consider from the very beginning, right? So, I'm excited to be delivering this to you guys. And at Lion Dev, our mission is not only to develop innovative apps, but also apps and websites, but also to ensure that they're secure and resilient against cyber threats. There's a philosophy in the security world that you should assume that your systems can and are hacked and how to approach it. So I'm going to talk a lot about that today, but I'm excited about it. Guys, if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, and let us know. And let us also know what you're interested in. So we're happy to dive deeper into this. We're only going to be able to hit the surface of this because it's a huge topic. And if you guys have like particular interest and we get enough interest in this, I got some specialists I could bring in here to really nail down some of these topics. It's a lot of fun. It's a huge topic. I'm super excited.
Perfect, that it surely is. To kick things off, Philip, can you give us a brief introduction to cybersecurity and why it is such a crucial area of focus today?
Absolutely, Rahima. Cybersecurity includes protecting systems, networks, intellectual property, and data, all from digital attacks or from accidental abuse, right? So
Mhm.
there's intentional attacks, there's incidental abuse, and then there's exploitation that can happen at many different levels. So we're looking at trying to protect our clients and yourself from all these threats that can happen in the marketplace via intentional or unintentional, right? So ensuring robust cybersecurity means that it's vital to protect sensitive information and maintain trust in our digital services, right? And preventing potential devastating consequences. So, for instance, uh, think about how much personal information you share online via from your kids' photos or just the political opinions that you share between friends, or even your sarcastic remarks
Yeah.
between friends and jokes that could be taken the wrong way, right? So, and that's not even including our banking information that we use every day in our lives, or
Mhm.
medical information, or things that happen in our lives that could be used against us when put in the wrong light. So, here at Line Pro Dev, we prioritize integrating strong security protocols into our apps and web development projects so that we're able to protect and monitor as much as possible. The concept that I initially talked about, where we assume that we're either already hacked or people are in the process of trying to hack us, makes it so that we are both open with our clients if something does happen, and that we're also monitoring the environment to make sure that we are looking and staying abroad for those attacks when they do happen. Now, maybe they never do, right? But
Yeah.
let's assume that they are happening or will happen, and
Mhm.
be very aggressive against it.
That is absolutely correct, Philip. And why do you think cybersecurity has become increasingly important in recent years?
Oh, so good question, Ramo. The increasing importance of cybersecurity can be attributed to several factors. First of
Mhm.
all, the proliferation of internet connected devices, the explosion of data that's generated, the shift towards digital transformation in various industries have all contributed towards escalating cyber threats in the landscape. On top of that, we now have AI threats where people can represent voices, they can learn how to hack better, they can use tools to automate the hacking, where normally anybody couldn't do it, but now we can have 5, 6, 10 year olds hacking and doing massive damage without really ever realizing the consequences, right?
Exactly.
And just plain so the opportunity for malicious activity is nothing like we've ever seen before. And this is even before we consider what's happening with quantum technologies for computing. And that's a whole nother world. And that's for another discussion where we talk about how to separate out systems so that when you are hacked, there's a minimal amount of damage done and a minimal amount of loss and quick reactions on how to handle that if there is a breach.
Completely agree, Philip. We've all seen headlines about data breaches affecting millions of users. It is
Oh,
unclear in the
Equifax, right?
yeah,
There's tons and tons of examples of where things have gone wrong.
exactly. And what do you think about what are some of the latest trends in cyber threats that businesses and individuals should be aware of?
Okay, so we're currently seeing a rise in ransomware attacks and phishing
Wow.
schemes, sophisticated malware. So ransomware, for example, is where it encrypts a victim's data and demands payment for its release.
Mhm.
Phishing schemes are where individuals get tricked into revealing sensitive information, and often this can happen in the form of uh, requests for loans or employment interview information. There's
Exactly.
just so many ways to trick even clever people. Can you
Yeah,
imagine the threat to our mothers and our grandmothers who are more trusting, right? Not trustworthy, of course they are, right? But more trusting to the environment around them and less savvy to the risks involved. You got to keep this in mind because your app or your website could be taken over, right?
exactly.
And they can instantly take the trust that you have and massively exploit your clients, which is a huge threat, and you're responsible for that. In my eyes, I am as a developer feel responsible for when that happens, and that's why quick recognition of when that happens, if it ever does happen, is super important. God willing, it never does happen, but be ready for it.
Yeah, indeed, that is absolutely correct, and it's essential to stay updated. Just last month, we saw significant amount of such incidents happening on major corporation disrupting their operations for days. It's a stark reminder of how vigilant we need to be now. Can you explain
It's a really
some?
a big deal. I'm going to
Yeah,
interject for a second to point this out. I've seen people commit suicide
exactly.
over information released, especially women, right?
Mhm.
There are prone to this. I have seen terrible crimes perpetrated on people. So it's not just a matter of personal information being released, right? It can really
Exactly.
affect lives. And you never want to be the business owner on the other side of this, that somebody committed suicide because of something that happened from your app or information, or you were the gateway to the exploitation of humans. So I really want to point out how critical this is and not just say, yeah, it's stupid passwords or little stuff. It's really life
Exactly.
altering for families and individuals.
It gets highness to a point. And can you explain some of the most common types of cyber attacks and how they typically work?
Sure. So some common attacks include phishing, right? Where the
Mhm.
attackers or individuals that are revealing sensitive information, malware, which encompasses various kinds of malicious software like viruses or spyware, and ransomware, where attackers are encrypting the data on a person's uh, devices and demand money for its release or prevention of release. So, for example, a common phishing attack might involve an email that looks like it came from your bank, from PayPal,
Exactly.
or some other trusted source, even your cell phone provider, right? And where you verify your account information. And once you've entered your information, it's then stolen by the attacker. Congressmen fall victim to this, right? So don't
Yeah.
consider it lightly. It's super easy to fall into that path. And understanding these methods is the first step to defending yourself against them. And at Lion, we incorporate multiple layers of security in our applications that include real time monitoring, automatic threat detection, and protection against these common attacks. These are sometimes upgraded packages for your application, right? There's costs related to this. So sometimes, eventually, it always makes sense, right? But you have to kind of figure out where you are in your app lifecycle to how deep you run down this trail, right? If you're just doing your MVP and you're trying to prove a concept, it's more important to show it to people than it is to make sure you have the perfect cyber solution. But once you're going live and you got lots of users, enough users where people can recognize you in the market and start targeting your app, that's when you really need to consider this, especially when you start getting uh, investment money from people
Yeah.
outside of your immediate circle.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct, and that is definitely very insightful. It's incredible how deceptive some of these attacks can be. My friend has been a victim to this as well. I
Mhm.
remember reading about a phishing attack where hackers used a fake job posting to collect personal information from job seekers. It goes to show how vigilant we can need to be. What are some of the best practices businesses can adopt to protect their data?
Okay, everybody's going to love this one. Use strong passwords, rotate through them regularly. Don't use the same password on multiple sites.
Mhm.
Multi-factor authentication, conducting
Okay.
regular security audits are essential practices, right? It's also important to educate employees and family members and friends and users
Absolutely.
about the cyber risks that are out there and establish clear um and responsive measures that make it so that you when you have a situation, you know how to respond, right? So
Exactly.
just standard operating procedures is what we call them, right? SOPs. So when you have an event, right, you should know exactly what to do so that you can quickly go and change passwords, uh, reveal data, lock up data, notify whoever has been affected, right? And take quick action. It's an environment where seconds can matter. And often you can consider that the time between you when you realize you've been hacked and when the data is being abused could be moments, or it could literally be like days or weeks or months before that data is abused. So if you've had a breach,
Right.
don't take it lightly, change everything, and make sure you are protecting yourself across the spectrum.
Definitely, we never should take it lightly, and definitely, education is the key. At Line Product, as you know, we conduct regular training sessions to keep our team informed and vigilant. How can individuals ensure their personal data remains secure?
Okay, yeah. So it starts with making sure your passwords are good, making
Yeah.
sure you're enabling two-factor authentication. Uh, be super cautious whenever you're sharing personal information, right?
Mhm.
Look for changes in patterns. If you're using a phone provider, right, and all of a sudden they ask you to verify your phone number, your mother's maiden name, your social security number, right,
Yeah.
the question things that seem out of place, take that as a red flag and either contact them or just don't give it to them, right? A
Exactly.
lot of the
Mhm.
times, apps will ask for certain information and they don't really need it, right? And that's okay if it's a mortgage or something else financial. This is different. Unfortunately, in America, we've regulated fairly frequent confirmations of personal information, and I think this was a dumb idea. Right, by legislators in America to require this kind of updates because it makes people expectant that yeah, they're going to have to verify this information frequently or once a year, and it should never happen, right? This is the easiest way for hackers to get in there, say, hey, yeah, it's time for that checkup again. Government requires it. Here it is. Give us your information, right? And it
Exactly. It
sounds
makes it easier
it
for
is
them.
as stupid.
It is. It certainly is.